Hi, it's Mike with AskTractorMike.com. Got a viewer letter today from Larry, and Larry is shopping for a tractor. And I normally have advice I give to people that are shopping for tractors that are looking for what size to get. And I may go against that with Larry. But I'm also curious what you think. If you've had experience of this type, what you did, and if that was the right thing to do or not. So let's get started with Larry's letter. And Larry says, Mike, first off, love your videos. Thank you, Larry. He's talking to a dealer about either a John Deere 4044 or a 4052. And he says, I have 40 acres I bought a couple of years ago, 3 acres of creek bottom, the rest is tillable. And he's hoping to get some of it into the CRP program this fall. He's mostly mowing weeds and cleaning up dead fall, which I think that means brush. And that's about all it will ever get used for. Is there an advantage of going to a 4052, which is 52 horsepower, versus a 4044, which is 42.5 horsepower? I've never owned a tractor. Curious about your thoughts. Thanks much, Larry. Well, Larry, choosing a tractor is one of the toughest things you'll ever do. And Larry actually purchased my book, An Insider's Guide to Purchasing a Tractor. And in that book I say, always get the biggest tractor you can afford. But in this situation, I'm not sure that's right. Now, just as kind of a background, this could be any brand of tractor. Larry's looking at a Deere, but I used to work for Massey. They had a 1240, a 1250, and a 1260. And they were all the same frame size exactly. Had the same 3-point lift capacity, had the same front end loader lift capacity, but the 1240 was like 30 horsepower, the 1250 was 35 horsepower, the 1260 was 40 horsepower. And in that example, in my Massey days, the 1240 was probably the one we sold the most of. It had a small engine, the same one as the next size below it on a smaller frame head. The 1250 had a bigger engine, and the 1260 had the big engine with a turbo. The 1260 also had draft control and some other options that made it cost a lot more. So we generally sold the 1240, sometimes the 1250, and very seldom the 1260. Now, why do manufacturers make so many choices? Well, when I was working with Massey, if I had you trying to choose between the 1240 and the 1250, I knew I had your business. So I won either way you went. Deere's kind of got the same thing, but the difference between these two tractors is very, very insignificant except for one item. And we're talking about the 4044R and the 4052R. And both of these engines have a Tier 4 engine, a 4-cylinder with a diesel particulate filter. They both have the same rated PTO engine speed. Their power steering is the same, their lift capacity is the same, wheelbase is the same, transmissions are the same, the battery, the starter, the brakes, the seat, all the same. There is one major difference between the 4044R and the 4052R. The 4052R has a turbo on it. It actually has a smaller engine, a smaller 4-cylinder engine with a turbo on it, so it makes more horsepower. So, if I were trying to decide whether I wanted the 4044R with less horsepower or the 4052R, and all I'm ever doing with that is hooking on probably a 6-foot or a 7-foot brush hog, and the 4044R had enough horsepower to pull the brush hog, and we know, lift capacity-wise, cleaning up brush, they're both going to do the same identical thing, and the 4052R is more money. Well, I guess I'm going to want to know how much more money. To me, the value of a turbocharger, my perceived value, is probably about $1,200 to $1,500. If that's what it costs to get the tractor with more horsepower, then I'm probably going to go with more horsepower just so I've got it there. It seems like you always want the next biggest size tractor. In this case, Larry tells me there's like a $2,900 difference between the two tractors. Personally, I'm not going to pay that just for a turbo. Now, if there's ever a reason you would need just pure horsepower, get the bigger tractor. But if I were buying, I would check what the next size, frame size, with more lift capacity and a bigger engine and all that would cost. And see about the difference between going from the 4044R to the next size up that could give me a bigger brush hog and more lift capacity and all that. But two identical tractors, one's got a turbo, one doesn't, $2,900 difference. I'm probably going to go with a 4044 instead of the 4052. Now, one caveat to that. If I'm at a high elevation, if you're in the mountains anywhere, get a turbo. Turbocharged engines do a lot better up at high elevations. But if you're where I am in the Midwest where you don't need that, I'd probably go with a tractor with less horsepower. Now, I'm curious, what do you think? Any of you out there ever had a tractor that was naturally aspirated and you didn't like it and you wished you'd have gone with a turbo? Let me know in the comments down below. Now, generally, my recommendation to anybody that's purchasing a tractor, if you think you want a loader, or if you think you want four-wheel drive, or if you think you want any major option, get it. On any of those things, you'll get it back in resale value if you ever get rid of the tractor. If you think you want a cab, get it. I've always told people that. I've known lots of people that thought they wanted a cab, didn't get it, and then wished they'd have got it later. And I can tell you from experience working in a dealership and working as a factory rep, anytime you change your mind after you bought, it costs a lot of money to change your mind. If you buy a non-cab tractor later on, decide you want a cab tractor, it's going to cost you a lot of money to do that, even though the tractor is new. So get what you want the first time. But I'm curious, tell me in the comments below, you ever had experience turbo versus non-turbo? What would you do in Larry's situation? Appreciate y'all watching my videos. I'd be honored if you'd subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you can do that by clicking the mic face icon and checking the bell so you're notified when I post future videos. Here's a link to my website and the Tractor Fun Store where you can find my book, An Insider's Guide to Purchasing a Tractor, and here's another video you might want to watch. Thanks for watching.